Hey everyone, it's Kate, and today I'm interviewing Peggy Mead of Sew House 7 Patterns. I'm, of course, wearing my toaster sweater. I have made so many of her patterns and I love them. We're filming on Facebook Live, but we'll be uploading this video to YouTube. And if you're watching on YouTube, please like and subscribe to our channel if you want to learn more about sewing and quilting. We've started a new thing at the Confident Stitch where we have a theme, a question, and a giveaway every month. And today I get to announce the winner of January's giveaway. January's theme was purposeful projects. The question was, how do you get ready to sew? And the giveaway was this book called Quilt to Plan and Plan to Quilt. The winner was Barb Walster of Sew Fit for You, and she gets ready to sew by cutting out her project and threading her machine with the correct thread one day, and then the next day she finds that she can't resist sitting down and getting started on her project. I also love to cut out one day and sew the next day, but I think I will add putting the right thread in the machine to my repertoire because I think that's a great way to get ready to sew. This month, February 2021, the theme will be Independent by Design, and we're featuring a bunch of our independent pattern companies that we carry, which is why we're talking to Peggy today. Another new thing we're doing is doing a confident shout out during every video, and today's shout out goes to Gay Hild, who made the Itch to Stitch Mountain View pull-on jeans out of our super stretch 8.6 ounce denim in indigo. They turned out really cute, and I love all the embroidery she did on her pockets. So, as I said, to kick off Independent by Design month, let's talk to Peggy Mead, the owner and everythinger of Sew House 7 Patterns, which is based in Portland, Oregon. Welcome, Peggy.
Hi. Hi, Kate.
Hi.
I didn't realize you were wearing the toaster sweater. That's great.
Oh, yeah. And yesterday, I didn't even think of it. So here's the toaster sweater. Yesterday, I didn't even think about it, but I put on the Tabor V-neck and my new favorite pants, the free range slacks. They are so flattering. I don't know how did you think of putting that side panel in?
Well, for me, I kind of have saddlebags, and when the seams go right over my hip there, I feel like it just accentuates. It's really hard. So I thought if I just have the seam a little forward, but then it makes the back pant really wide. So I wanted a little something that kind of showed up on the back. So that's why I did the panel.
Yeah, it's amazing. I just love those pants. I have 2 pairs, and I know that I will have more in the near future.
That's great to hear. Well, yours turned out really well. I really, they look great on you. You did have to add some length though, right? You're tall.
Yeah, I added 4 inches, but I should have added 5.
Oh.
So I need to add another inch to the bottom. Yeah. It's my life. So, so you were born in Missoula.
Yeah, I was born in Missoula. I love Missoula. I wish I could live in Missoula.
So what brought you to Portland, Oregon?
Well, I went back to school. I'd gone to college and then I went into the wrong field and then went back to college and to learn pattern design. And I went at Oregon State because I thought, well, if I'm going to go to school, maybe I should get a master's so that I can teach, which I'm a terrible teacher. I don't really enjoy teaching. So I don't know why I did that, but it was also to kind of skip taking some of the basic classes. Anyway, I'm getting off the question, but I went to school at Oregon State and I made friends with this other woman in the design program. And when I was finished, She graduated a year before me, and she got a job, and they needed somebody, and she called me, and said, would you want to come work? It was for Nike. And I think I only worked there a few months. I lived with my friends, I lived with her and her husband for a few months, and it was the most boring job. And I quickly started looking for something else, found something else, and I've just been here ever since. It was supposed to be a little, I love Portland. I'm not putting it down, but I'm not a city person, and I thought I would just be here temporarily, get my feet wet in the industry, and then move on. And 20 something years later, I'm still here. I met my husband, and he was moving, but he stayed for me when we met.
Oh.
And we kind of, if it was my choice, I'd live in the mountains and he'd live at the beach. So this is our compromise.
Got it.
We can go to both really easily.
Luckily, you get to visit Missoula sometimes, and you've been to the shop.
Yeah, I think I've been there once.
Yeah,
I've been there once, like 3 years ago.
Yeah, hopefully we'll see you again soon. So how long have you been sewing?
Oh my gosh, most of my life, 40 something years. I don't know. I think I started when I was 7. I remember being 7 when I got my first pattern. I think I did a little sewing before that, like hand stitching and whatnot, but when I actually used a pattern and a sewing machine, I was 7 years old, and I just never quit. Well, I did take a little hiatus in my adult life when I was working so much.
Right, but you were working in the industry, so.
Yeah, working in the industry, yeah.
So when did you start Sew House 7, and what led you to start it? What was missing in the garment pattern world that you wanted to provide?
Well, I don't know if there was anything missing. I think it was kind of more of a selfish, just my need to design and get my designs out there. However, it's very different than what I had originally planned, because I think I was just tired of the apparel industry. And even when I was a kid, I remember dreaming that, I could design patterns for, McCall's or something, and right. Simplicity, that. But I didn't think it was a reality. And after just years of working in the apparel industry and being really tired of it, and it's also a difficult industry when you're older. And as I got older, I was tired of it even before I got older, but as I got older, I just really realized I only wanted to be in design, and think it's hard to continue and be in design in the industry. They want really young people, and you have to go into finance or management, which is not my forte, and didn't want to do that. And I could just see the writing on the wall, and I also was just tired of the industry. Right. And I thought about what else can I do, and years before I had read some books on starting a pattern company, or starting, getting your patterns out there for sale. And it just seemed, the woman who wrote the book main book that I read, I can't remember what it was called, but it was a little discouraging. She really didn't make much money at it. And so I kind of put it aside. But then when I saw one day a Colette pattern in the bookstore downtown, I thought, oh, somebody's out there doing it. And at this time, I wasn't actually part of the sewing community. This was in, when I was thinking about this was probably back in 2011 or 2010 or something. But I had my kid was really young, and excuse me, I just didn't know how to go about it. But when I saw that other people were doing it, oh, I know what I was saying. Sorry, lost my train of thought. I hadn't been sewing much at that point. Like for about 10 years, I kind of didn't really, maybe I would sew something special for some special occasion, but wasn't sewing like I am now or like I had been previously. And so I hadn't been in a fabric shop in a while. I didn't know that there were indeed patterns out there. There weren't really that many at the time, but right. And I didn't know, I was on Instagram. I didn't know there was a sewing community. And but when I saw the Colette pattern, it put the idea in my head. I thought, I am going to pursue this. And so I just got the patterns ready. And originally I was going to make, we had a dress code at my job, and you have to dress up every day. And so I was thinking kind of more real dressy things and things that were different, not just what you'd see in stores, but things, like really put my mark on the design world. But then when it came down to actually doing it, I think I was thinking, as I thought about it more, I wanted it to be, teaching people, getting people into sewing and things that are easy enough to start, and not just some crazy thing that you're going to wear once. And so it kind of evolved. And so I got my 3 patterns out there or got them ready, and then kind of froze when it came to the marketing. And a friend of mine said, you've got to get on Instagram. And suddenly and she told me about Closet Case, now Closet Core, but it was back when Heather just had a blog, and she wasn't selling patterns, but she had done the bombshell swimsuit. So she told me to read that. So I read her blog, and I saw the Instagram community, and I just had no idea that it was all out there. So it wasn't like I was trying to, that I was seeing what was out in the community and what was missing. It was more me designing, and then how do I get it out there? And whoa, this whole world is out there that I had no clue about. And it just opened all the doors and just changed my life. And it was just amazing. This was all out there, and I didn't know. But I think it's grown a lot too. Like, it wasn't as big in the beginning when I started, but.
Right. And you're doing a really good job with the social media and the marketing, even though you don't like it.
Well, that's funny, because I feel like I'm not doing a very good job. Because I just, like you said, I'm a one-woman show, and I've decided this year I'm going to hire somebody. I just have been too busy to write up the application and put it out there. So I feel like the Instagram, it takes a back seat. And I'm doing all right, but it could be so much better, so I really want to get somebody to help me with that.
Yeah, that'll be great.
Yeah.
So who is your target audience?
Well, I'm not going about this in the same way that, like working in the apparel industry. Like, I worked for Jansen and Pendleton and Nike, and, you have a target customer, and it was so frustrating to me, because I was never the target customer. And you're trying to guess what these people want. And half the time the stuff you're designing I thought was just horrible. And, you're trying to, and they're saying, but this is what the customer wants. And I'm thinking, is it really? And it's just this whole guessing game. And then there's a lot of market research and what are the trends and whatnot. And I think I just go about things so differently now. I think more, what do I actually want to wear? So I'm designing for myself. But I'm hoping that I'm designing things that aren't age specific, that, and I love that I see older and younger people wearing them. And I want to design things that are on trend, but aren't trendy, because it takes me a long time to get a pattern ready. And if the trend was over next season, that would be just so much work out the door, I want something that's not going to go out of style right away, but yet it's timely. So I'm just kind of designing with that in mind, and whoever follows and likes it, that's who I'm designing for.
Right. And I kind of have the same thing going. I am my target audience. Whenever we we can build a kind of a target on Facebook, and we use how Facebook describes me, we get tons more, we reach a ton of people. So I can pretend that my target audience is others, but it really is me. And
I honestly
that always works the best.
Yes, I honestly think it does. And I have a feeling, I'm not sure, but I have a feeling that that's what most designers are doing. And I think it works better, because you know what you like. So you're doing the right thing, when you're trying to guess what somebody else wants, unless you really, really know your customer well. It's difficult.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
in
it's really makes decision making easy.
right, it does. And I think, you'd be surprised so many other people like what also want what you want, or what you're wearing or what you design.
Right.
And so, yeah.
So I know, what expertise did you bring to the table? I know that
Well,
you have training and worked at all
yeah,
those clothing companies.
yeah. Yeah, I guess just my background of all the years of sewing. Then I did, have take a lot of pattern making classes. I've only taken one tailoring class. Took draping, was my favorite. I love draping, and I taught draping at the Art Institute for a little bit. But I'm a
Wow.
terrible teacher, like I said. I love helping people. And it was this class that was like, it was only once a week, and it was 4 hours long, and I had to lecture for
Oh
an
my
hour
gosh.
and then help people with the project for 3 hours. And I loved helping people with the projects, but the lecture was hard for an hour for
Yeah.
me. But anyway, just, yeah, that expertise. But also what I've found is that as much training as I've had, a lot of it I really learn just doing it. Like I sound, people kind of think that I should be an expert. And so a lot of times I was kind of, in the past, I was afraid to maybe teach classes or have somebody ask me a question and I wouldn't know the answer because I'm supposed to be the expert. And I
Mhm.
was listening to this podcast with Susan Calgi. Is that how you pronounce her last name?
Yeah, I think so.
Who's just this expert couture, person.
Right.
And she admitted that she doesn't know much about pant fitting. And you think it all that somebody would just know it all, but it's true. Like I didn't do a lot of pants other than working on, fitting on myself. All the jobs I'd had, I wasn't like fitting pants on people. When I worked my last job at Pendleton, I wasn't a pattern maker. I was designing sweater stuff. So that was
Mm.
different, and Jansen swimsuits, we weren't doing pants other than we did some blazer dancer outfits, and sometimes we do cover-ups that might include a pant, but I wouldn't say I
Right.
was a pant fitting expert. And I can't believe just working on pant fitting and then doing the curvy size range too has taught me so much.
Right.
I'm still learning.
Right.
It's not like I'm an expert, but just all the fitting and and it's interesting to me, like the you think you get a crotch curve just right and you can just plop that on anywhere to any design, and
I
that's
know.
not the case. It's not the case. It depends on the fabric and the style and how much ease, and anyway, just all those things that I'm just learning by doing, so
Yeah.
I think that my training helped, but there's more to it. It's just
Yeah.
I'm learning all the time. Yeah.
Yeah. I've taken the Palmer Pletch sewing pants class, week-long class twice, and I still find crotch curves just really perplexing.
Yeah, because
So,
so much depends on the style and the fabric. It's
yeah.
not just a one curve fits, every design. At
Right.
least that's what I think. What I
No, I
think I
think you're right.
figured.
And yeah, you change one little thing and everything looks different.
Yeah.
So, what has been the biggest challenge you faced running an independent pattern company?
I think um, the two that come to mind. One is timing. Um, I feel like I struggle to get things done in a timely manner seasonally. Like I think I
Mm,
started plenty of time in advance, and I'm still like down to the wire. Like I want to get this out because it's wintry and winter's almost over, and
right,
then I don't have time to like send it. Then I'll just what I've kind of just given up and decided to do is put the PDFs out there first, and then the printed patterns come second because it's just so hard for me to plan that all. And then the
right,
other is somewhat related is that I'm doing it all by myself. And
right.
it's just so much so whenever we go on a vacation, it seems like that's when all the problems, people would have problems downloading their pattern or questions or whatever. It all happened. Nothing happens when you're here, but when you go out of town, it all falls apart.
Right,
And
right.
just it'd be really nice to have somebody, to bounce ideas off of and to help pick up the slack or pick up the things that I don't do as well, like the marketing and
Right.
that. Yeah.
Yeah. And I have a staff of 2, and the 3 of us, it's great to have them because they definitely do things that are not my strengths, and I really need them to do those things.
Right.
So
I know even
speaking,
things.
oh, go ahead.
Oh, sorry.
No, you go ahead.
Oh, even things that, like I had a graphic design background, but I feel like because I'm doing it all not very well. Like what I really want to focus on is the design and the pattern making. So everything else, even if I was somewhat good at it, turns out terrible because I just don't have the time to focus. But I think there are other people who would be better at it than I am, for sure.
Right, right. Just finding the right people is always challenging.
Right.
So speaking of travel, I saw on your blog that you have gone to Thailand on the regular,
Yeah.
and watched people make fabric. And so how has that been valuable, not only as a sewer, but as a designer?
I think just seeing the process, like how much is involved, and it's on a smaller scale. Like I've only been to a few places in Thailand where they did that, but it is really interesting, and it's more, artisan textiles. But then when you just think about that on a bigger scale, like and how much time it takes and how expensive the fabric is because it's so time consuming and what goes into the process, just like sewing, then it makes you appreciate like, wow. And then you can just buy it cheap, like
Right.
lots of it, in big quantities. And it kind of all brings it home just how intensive it is to really make textiles. And then it was interesting. So we do go to Thailand a lot because my husband was born there and he's part Thai. And it's funny because this morning he's just talking about going again because one of his relatives isn't doing well. And so we might try and go again in November if travel allows, but
Right.
it's really, I never get tired of seeing it though, even though I've only gone a few times, but I'd like to go again, even though it's going to be the same process. But I just love being around it and seeing them with the plants, the indigo plants and the dyeing and how they
Right,
make
right.
it. I don't know if that answers your question. It's more just the artisan. I love the artisan feel
Right.
of it. You feel more connected to what it is and what you're doing.
Right. Well, when I teach classes, sometimes people will say, man, we do not pay enough for our clothes.
Yeah,
Making clothes is a ton of work.
it is.
And, as we spend 6 weeks making a simple top. And yeah, it's amazing how cheap things are now and how much work goes into them and how much we just no longer value the art of making fabric and the art of sewing. We think
Right.
it's easy and cheap, and that's one of the reasons I love sewing for myself so much, is getting back to the art and appreciating it and not being part of the fast fashion world.
Yeah, exactly.
So do you
I
have oh, go ahead.
Oh no, I just said I agree.
Do you have a favorite fabric to sew with? And do you design your patterns with certain fabrics in mind?
Sometimes, but not always. I design for various reasons, but yeah, sometimes a fabric will inspire me. And it's funny because I think my favorite thing to wear are fabrics to wear are knits.
Mm-hmm.
I definitely like comfort And especially after this COVID, it's going to be hard to put on woven clothing for me. But
Right.
I love sewing linen. I don't know.
Mm.
I love the crispness of, pressing the seams and but I go through phases. Like when I started, I think I was loving rayons and drapey,
Mm-hmm.
the designs I had. I was looking, there weren't as,
Right.
now there's more rayons out there, but there weren't as many drapey
Right.
prints and the right prints. And I was kind of obsessed with that. And then I went on to the knits, and then it was linen, and it just kind of varies, but
Right. Well, we're glad that you like lots of different fabrics so that you design for all of them, because I'm just like you. It depends on the day. It depends on how I'm feeling, whether I want to wear a knit or a fancy linen or a rayon. So I love the variety of your patterns, and I really find myself gravitating to the things I've made from your patterns the most of really any.
really.
Um, yeah, I really do. Um, and I read somewhere that I like that you design things that people can make in, a few hours, because we're all so busy and we might want to make things that are really complex, but that can be a real barrier to actually getting started and certainly finishing. So I
Yeah.
love that the things that you design are doable in a matter of hours, and I can have something to wear that I love.
And I should say they're not all that way. I don't only design that way. Like the last design I did with the wildwood wrap dress is a little more
Oh,
involved.
right.
It's once you get it down, it's not terrible, but just it's not as straightforward. You kind of have to follow the directions and all that. So it's a little
Right.
more time consuming. So it's not like I'll always do that, but I did, like when I started, I had kind of taken that sewing hiatus because I was so busy, and I had a
Right.
kid, I had a job, and I had other hobbies that I was really into, and I had a big group of friends here who recently moved, but I just had not much time at all. And when I did want to sew, I wanted to be able to finish it, because I thought if you're not somebody, most of the sewing world on Instagram, I think a lot of people really have a good sewing practice where they're sewing a lot, but the rest of the community, might just be part-time sewers, and if they were like me, like you start it, and if you don't have time to finish it, by the time you pick it up again, you don't even
Right.
like it anymore. You don't want to finish it. You're not in the mood. You want to do a different project. And
Right.
that to me is also kind of wasteful. I mean, I do that too. I'm not judging anyone, but it's just, especially for people getting started, to at least feel like they've accomplished something, and then feel like, wow, this was fun. I want to do it again. And then maybe get into the more involved projects. They get that under
Right.
their belt and feel like I won.
Right. Well, thank you, Peggy. I think I like your patterns even more than I did before, which was a lot. And I bet that we will talk again, and I look forward to seeing you here in Missoula. So for the rest of you, um, we do have a question of the month, and as I said, there's a giveaway. The giveaway is 2 independent patterns of your choice. They could be 2 Sew House 7 patterns, but any of our brands, you can pick 2 of them. And the question is, what are your favorite pattern companies, and which ones do you wish we carried? I'll be back on Saturday, February 13th at 9:30 a.m. Mountain Time to talk about the improvements we're making with our quilting cotton swatch service. So we're really um, ramping it up. It's going to be so cool. So I hope to see you in a week and a half on Saturday, February 13th, 9:30 a.m. Mountain Time. Thanks for watching, and bye for now.